Coming up on today's show, Mariko Sakai is a businesswoman, coach, thought leader, TEDx speaker, light worker, and sex-positive community builder. Mariko is passionate about helping people who have conformed to society's expectations by suppressing and disassociating their true selves, needs, and desires to live a whole life bringing all parts of themselves. She is a certified coach in love, sex, relationship, conscious dating, tantric intimacy, women's empowerment, femdom, and ethical BDSM. She is also trained in emotion freedom technique and lives an alternative lifestyle.
Welcome to Loving Without Boundaries, where we hear inspiring stories, share actionable advice, and talk about the challenges and the joys of ethical non-monogamy and polyamory. I'm your host, Kitty Shambliss.
I am really excited to be doing an interview here with Mariko Sakai. So I am delighted to have you here and just thrilled to be having this conversation with you. So welcome to Loving Without Boundaries and our show here.
Thank you, Kitty, for having me. It is a great honor.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really thrilled to get to know you better and maybe eventually meet you in person since we're both in the Washington, D.C. area, which is lovely. And I love that we have a mutual friend who introduced us together. And it's been a long time putting this interview together. And I appreciate your patience while we worked out all the different logistics of making this happen. So thank you.
Yes, you are so welcome. I was really thinking about, there is no mistake, right? There is a reason for why we are doing it today as opposed to last year. So I'm really, really excited how that's going to show up. So thank you.
You're welcome. So I'd love it if for anyone who is not familiar with your work, and I know some of your followers and people who do already know your work may be watching as well, or even watching the recording. But for anyone who's maybe not that familiar with you, I'd love it if you would introduce yourself in your own words.
Thank you. Yes. So my name is Mariko, and I am born and raised Japanese, and came here to the United States to do my master's. And then when I came here, I was like a total rule follower. And that turned into someone is completely different. And then now I am, after having done that on my own, I coach other people to pioneer their own path of living a life, whether it's who they are, but also how that express in their relationships. And then that's certainly non-traditional, non-vanilla.
Yes. I get you. I definitely identify the same way, non-traditional and non-vanilla. I sometimes call it being flavored.
Oh, yes. Right. Yeah. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Yes. So sometimes I like to start out asking what I call the light bulb moment question. Was there a moment in your life where you realized that you were just a little bit different from either the other kids or the other young people that were surrounding you, and you knew that you might not fit that mold of maybe traditional heteronormative monogamy? Was there a particular moment or maybe a series of moments for you?
That is a great question. I would love to think about a little bit older time, but in terms of me being a different person, it's since birth. Just this thing of I just don't fit in. And then for me, I always felt like I was a very, I guess I didn't feel like I was a girl. And I don't think I mean it in I wanted to be a trans but it was really more I felt more in line with men or boys. Mm-hmm. And I was playing with the boys and then and girls too. But I always had this thing about whoa, I'm a girl, I don't know if that will resonate, but that was like, yeah, since birth. And then in terms of like, I'm different from a relationship standpoint, I have to say it actually came really later, like after I got divorced. And I would say maybe I was maybe in my 40s or something. It kind of came out as me noticing, wow, like I was saying, I was a rule follower and I just really didn't think of anything else. And then I thought, wow, to be able to follow the rules, to be able to be in this marriage and to be able to be, monogamous, heteronormative monogamy, right? Mm-hmm. I suppressed so much of myself. And then it was not just the relationship things, but in terms of like to keep the marriage going, I needed to suppress this part. I needed to, hide this part, or I needed to dissociate this part of me. Mm. And so that was like when I finally got divorced, I'm like, wow, oh my God, I did this to myself,
Wow.
So then after that, I started to realize, wow, okay, so just really following what is true for me. And then that sounds so simple, but it was really not that simple. Mm-hmm. And then I started to realize, oh, wow, this is great. And then none of the things I'm doing currently is something that I could foresee. Like, I was just following, like, let's say the only thing I knew is like, I want this. And I just followed it without knowing how that looks like, like what is it called? Like, what kind of like, like a kitchen table poly, or, like I didn't know any of those names or labeling. And then just arrived at what feels true. I'm like, oh, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I captured some of that. So tell me a little bit more about, I'm curious about your background. Were you born not in America and you came here later? When did you come to America?
Yeah. So yes, I was born and raised in Japan, and I went to college there and I had a career there. And so I was 25 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. And then actually that's one of the things, like I never thought myself like, wow, I'm a first generation immigrant. Wow. I never thought that I would be that, like I thought that I was a foreign student,
Yes.
Getting a master's degree in another country. And then like, now I'm finding myself, I'm a first gen immigrant, so that's, yeah. So that's one of the things I suppose, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. And then I'm curious, around what time did you get married and how long were you married?
I got married to someone that I met in the U.S. After I finished my master's. I was 30 years old. And And again, I was very, very vanilla every way. And yes, it was just normal. No, not normal. Yes, vanilla, heteronormative, monogamous marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what did you maybe learn about yourself from that experience of getting married and having a very traditional marriage, and then realizing that you were suppressing parts of yourself? What were maybe some of the learnings that you got from that experience?
So for me, it was really about me as an individual, as a component of a couple. And also there is just like a big career component of like, me as an individual, what's my purpose? And I got married and had children, and I was doing very well in the corporate career. I start to notice like oh my God, like this career that I'm very career oriented. And, like this career that I was having, I knew like the only reason that I'm doing this career is because of the money. And there's nothing wrong with the money thing, you know? It's just like, but I just knew like after, coming to America as as a foreign student, and I just happened to find a job, and then I happened to find a husband. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Next thing I know, oh, okay, I'm doing this job that I do so well, but there was no heart in it, in this job. And then so I'm like, wow. And it makes sense for me, financial reasons, like, this is what I have done and this is what I studied and this blah, blah, blah. But like, this isn't really, what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this is not my calling. But then by the time I was realizing, well, I was in this marriage and I was living this life, and basically I felt like I just keep going, and then so, but I was just increasingly feeling empty. And then so I was trying like a different things because I really felt like I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what my purpose is. And so that was really the driver. Like, I wanted to really find why I'm here. And I wanted to spend majority of my time doing the thing that really mattered to me. But I had no clue as to what that was. Yeah, it was a really, really a hard time in my life. And and I think that for me, the marriage, so I was married for about 20 years. The marriage was something that is like a ribbon at the top of like this box that I was fitting in, like this perfect life of like a good career, having a family and, married, successful person box. And then the marriage was the ribbon on top. So when we got divorced, the process started. It was something that I never wanted to do. Like I just always had this story about, oh, divorce is terrible. It's a failure, hurt the children, blah, 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 all this story, right? So to undo that, and then of course, just like any things that happen in life, it was happening, the divorce was happening because it was inevitable. It really had this feeling of inevitability when it was happening. It was not because I wanted to get a divorce. It was because I was so afraid of it. I was not doing it, but it was happening. So I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. But when it happened, or as it was happening, I started to realize, oh my God, like the ribbon was, was not tying it at the top anymore. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'm free now to,
yes,
this box,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that realization that you were free. So maybe was it more like a feeling of that you could reinvent yourself and become whatever you wanted?
Yeah. And then it was really, I mean, I worked with a different the coaches and therapists, not therapists, the healers. And then in that process, I really, through that work, I have found myself like really having this feeling of being reborn. Being reborn to a new person. But the cool thing about this new person is actually I'm not becoming a different person. I am becoming me. It's like taking this layers out, or taking this, the jail that I put myself in, and then just the jail just went away. And then so I became free to express myself finally,
Yeah. I love the way you said that the jail went away, and maybe even realizing like some of that may have even been a little bit self-imposed, of course
Totally.
you were in the marriage, but some of it is like, wait a minute, I could be me at any time, but also being free out of that traditional monogamous marriage gave you a new path that you could carve for yourself. I think that's so incredible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, it was, I would say that it was 100% self-imposed. I thought that I should do that. Yeah.
Right.
I did it.
Right. Yes. Well, so inspiring to realize that at any moment we can be reborn, or at any moment we can reinvent ourselves or choose a different path or state who we are that's true for us. So thank you for sharing your story. And it is really a story of transformation. So what was maybe one thing that guided you in your transformation journey from that heteronormative, monogamous, rule-following person that you described into being who you are today, a businesswoman, to a sex and love coach, and also to practicing ethical non-monogamy? What would you say was that one thing that guided you?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. So in one word, it's desire. But the tricky part is that it's not that simple to follow that desire, because I feel like it's a lot of people, including my past self, and then even now, like I have to be very, very careful. Is this the real desire? And I feel like that a lot of the time that people get mistaken, again, myself included, is that the difference between the real, like a genuine, even sacred heart's desire, right? As opposed to something that I am doing or wanting for some other agenda, or the minding somebody else's business things other than my own. So just to give you an example, I have 2 partners currently, and they're both married. I never imagined that I will be doing that. Like 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, I never imagined that. And then the fact of the matter is, it's not like I started out thinking, well, I'm going to be in a have multiple partners who are married. I didn't start like that. What I started was, I started dating, right? After I became single, I started dating different people, and then really just without labeling myself, labeling them, and then just really what's there, like what's naturally there organically. And then if I like it, I will spend more time with them. I get to know them better, and then they get to know me better. And really, simply put, when I'm looking for people that I want to be a partner or friends, it's really about, I want to feel seen in their presence, seen, heard, understood, valued. So that was my desire. So when I followed that desire, those people came to my life, and I'm in the partnership with them. And so again, if 3 years ago, I told myself, like, hey, in 3 years from now, you're going to be in a relationship with 2 married men. I'm like, you must be out of your mind,
Yes.
But like, yeah, like these are like some of the best things that happened to my life. And then also, it's not only that, it is teaching something that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. And then it is really, what's interesting about this is that these partners, so they're not my primary partners, right? I mean, because they are married, right? And they have their primary partners. So that seat for me is vacant, but still, actually, these partners that I have, that are not primary partner gives me that this primary partner is real for me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like I'm being with them because I'm settling. It's actually the opposite. They're being the example. I'm in a relationship with them so that I don't settle. And it's hard to explain, but it doesn't really matter. They are my partners, and then even though they are not primary, and they are extremely important part of my life.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
The way I'm hearing you is that you rewrote the script about what relationships look like for you, what living your most authentic life looks like for you, and maybe raised your standards in ways that surprised even you, because you were such a role follower in the past. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. Yes. And then, yes. So to answer your question, it was that desire, but I needed to make sure that I'm following a correct desire, right? So if I had according to my definition, incorrect desire, like, for example, I would only want a primary partner, who I would like to marry. And then, so he has to be single, like he has to be 6 foot tall, like all these things,
yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I had to have a correct desires to come to it. Like, so to me, yes, that was, desire. But yeah, to have a correct desire is, I guess it's a way to experience magic, like something I was not foreseeing. Yeah. Yeah. So my E&M journey got deepened after I got trained to be a dominatrix as well, which was another thing. Again, if you ask me, like, even when I was taking this sex and love coaching certification, I had no idea I did not know anything about kink or like a BS relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what a dominatrix is, really. I mean, I've heard of them, but like, I really never thought that. And in me, no, like no, like yeah. So that's another thing. It's like, it's not like, I want to be a dominatrix. I'm curious. No. That's not what happened. But I am one now. And, it's the same thing. I followed a desire.
Yeah.
And, I didn't question my desire. That's another thing. Like, no matter how like crazy it may sound, over time of doing, after I was reborn, it was really important to me that I don't judge my own desires. It's just like, I want something, I do it. Like, it doesn't really matter if it looks crazy or like,
right.
And I remember like in about 1918, I had this like a very detailed astrological and tarot reading done. And then this reader told me, you'll be doing something like, you're going to be doing, like, oh, I'm doing this because I want to. And then like, sometimes you may be doing something like, oh my God, I'm doing this. And then like, I was listening to it. And then like, that was like at the very beginning of my transformation. And I was like, okay, wow, that's interesting, but that's exactly what I'm doing. And so I was like, wow, I am doing these things like, oh my God, what am I doing? Yeah, but I'm doing it. Yay.
Yes. Yeah. I love what you said there, just about that sense of freedom and elation of, if I want to do something, I just do it. I mean, to me, that just exemplifies that reinventing yourself, following your desires, like you said, and freeing yourself from that prison that you mentioned, the jail earlier. So, and just stepping into this whole new life with what sounds like trusting yourself, a bit of wild abandon, and again, just chasing your desires. It's really inspiring to see you stepping into living your most authentic life. I'd love to ask, what were some of the most unexpected things that you learned through embodying that dominatrix experience and owning your inner dom?
So I would say this first one, I would like to share two things. The first one is that this learning about this non-vanilla kinky world. And then actually, a lot of the things that people do in the polyamory, the E&M space is actually considered also kink. And so through learning what turns people on, and then notice that, wow, that does not turn me on, but this turns them on, and vice versa, right? When I learn about what turns people on and how different that is from person to person, I really truly learned the sense of like, what someone's trash is, someone else's treasure. It really is.
Mm.
And so if I want something, there's a part of me, for example, like, wow, should I want this? There's a part of me like, okay, so I want this, maybe 80% of this, but not this 20% of this, if I'm being very, really honest.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who like this, usually just loving the whole thing. And then like, don't complain about this 20%, it's like, that is totally okay. It's like, it's really about asking myself. And I when I work with people, asking them, what do you really want? It's truly coming out of, what it is like to truly come out of any sort of a label. So for example, like, if I am a dominatrix, am I always dominant? No. Or am I always dominant with everybody else? No. I mean, or like, how am I dominant? Is it like, sometimes I want this way and that way, whenever I have if I'm a dominatrix, what would I do? When there are questions like that, I used to ask, so I was in this academy. I would ask Mistress, my mentor, Mistress Damiana, or a submissive coaches, and then say, okay, so I'm in this situation. What would I do? What should I do? And then they always ask me, well, Mistress, what do you want? You are the doctor. You decide. And this experience really made me realize there is always a part of me that I'm asking for outside validation or approval of some sort. Yeah, go ahead, Mariko. Go ahead and do it. There's a part of me. This is a really, really deep conditioning. But I had to train myself to, okay, well then the question is really about me. This is about me, and then so as I do that, I am able to also honor and then appreciate what other people really want. And then the more I do that, when people are really honoring what they want, exactly the way they want it, I see a tremendous beauty in them. I find that is when people really shine, that is when people are most radiant, the most powerful. And I love people owning that, seizing it, instead of saying, what I really want this is, but I don't think people will accept me, or, no one wants to do this with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to a lot of people who say that.
Mm-hmm.
And, without telling them what to do.
Right.
What I'm really trying to guide them is like, oh my God, that is the path to beauty. That is the path to, the people's highest potential.
That is so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so that's the first one. And I actually want to say something, in addition to that. So I, went to I was in Iceland, the Reykjavik, last fall. And I went to this, a museum, called the Penis Museum. Have you ever been?
Not to the one in Reykjavik. I've been to a sex museum in Amsterdam, though, that had a big penis sculpture.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't been to the one in Reykjavik. I've been to Reykjavik, but not that museum.
Got it. Okay. So I had this opportunity to go, and then I was completely blown away because I was not expecting. I thought, it was actually what was, as a kinky person, what was most interesting about that museum actually was that there are like a different penis samples, like, like in alcohol or whatever, dried up penis.
Wow.
Yeah. The different animals, right? Displayed.
Oh, different animals. Okay.
Yeah, different, not human.
Okay. I was thinking human. Either way, it's still interesting.
Yeah. Human penis was also displayed, like maybe a couple, but like the idea is like a different animal, different species, different,
wow.
creatures.
I need to go to this museum. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. But what was most interesting to me as a kinky person is that each of these animal or the creatures have like, like the drawing of the animal, right? And then like their description of their courting and mating habits and oddities. And what was interesting, and I was like reading every animal's courting and mating habits, I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, laughing me like, let's just with enjoyment, that everything I read about this very interesting, odd things, or like unique to the species or the kind of the animal or the creature, people do this. Different group of people love it and then do it. And another thing that was interesting was that for the same species, let's say dolphin or seals, right? And then there are different kinds of dolphins or different kinds of seals. Different kinds of dolphins have a completely different kind of mating and courting habits than other kinds of the same species. So I thought that, wow. So this exists in animal kingdom, including ourselves. And I couldn't help noticing that how much energy do we use as a human comparing what we truly want, to what other people may want and what other people may be doing. Like a lot of the energy, I think, is wasted by comparing, who we are and what we want versus what other people are and then what they want. And then so when we focus our energy, and again, when I say following our desires, I'm talking about definitely not doing anything, causing harm to other people or properties of other people, right? But I'm talking about just really what turns you on. It's so different from person to person, and then that's normal.
Yes,
that's normal.
I think that's probably resonating with a lot of people who are watching and listening, because in that space, they can feel deep acceptance that I'm not crazy. There's nothing wrong with me. Whatever I desire is okay and normal. especially coming from somebody who is a sex and love coach and a dominatrix, because you've seen a lot. So
Yes.
a question came in that I'd love to ask. So the question is it your experience that truly highly evolved people tend to trend towards these varied lifestyles? Because to go there, it seems one must let go of societal opinionated limitations.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say that the person has to be very conscious and awake, very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say that the person has to be, I don't know whether or not they recognize this or not as such, but I believe that they have a strong connection with the spirit. Like they have this sense of being led by something much bigger than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are compelled to follow it,
I love that.
So,
yeah, they've been following their inner guide, their inner compass in a way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this conditioning is so strong so that's why I feel like myself, like I've been living my life asleep for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I finally wake up, right, I start to notice, like, yeah, there is this voice inside, this knowing, and then this, being called, this sense of being called, and then just connection was always there. It's just like I've been trying not to pay attention because that wasn't, But yeah, absolutely, I would say that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that insight. And before we start to wrap up, I was really impressed that you've done a TED Talk. So we were talking about that right before we started to go live. And your TED Talk was called Irresistible Benefits of Befriending Your Shadows. I'd love if you just talk a little bit about that. Like, when did you do it? What was the process like of doing a TED Talk? And maybe one of the main takeaways from your TED Talk.
Thank you for that. So the whole experience was I talked about shadow work, and then that was pretty much, very clear. And I actually talk about that too, like that the people, the main message of that particular talk was that to talk to people who are afraid of going somewhere, like pursuing their desires, which they judge themselves because society, they feel that the society judges, just like what Judge just talked about, right? Mm-hmm. But going for that thing that is so scary, actually looks scary, is the definitely the fastest way to get to where you want to go. That's what I found in my life. And then so because it looks scary or something that you feel shame or whatever, people don't go there, which I find it to be a shame, like that people don't go to these places because they are so afraid that they feel shameful, but actually the answer, what they're looking for over here is actually here. So that talk is about that. And, that the way the talk actually happened was so interesting, and I would like to end it as as something that ties into what I said earlier. So I talked about I follow the desires, right, and then minding the my business, and then not minding other people's business, right, such as what people will think of me, right. Mm-hmm. So one of the business that is not my business to be minding is the God's business or the universe's business, whatever you call. Mm-hmm. And that how that the TED Talk came about was actually exactly that, the manifestation of that. So I wanted to do a TED Talk for no reason. And the logical thing to do is that I will find out how to land a TED Talk. And I even consider a coaching program to how to land the TED Talk. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was actually looking into the dominatrix training.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I have a way to get a guidance from a non-human intelligence. And then this is one of the things that I teach my clients. But according to that guidance, so I asked them, like, it's about the same price to do either of this training. And the logical thing seems to be that since I want to land a TEDx talk and I didn't even know what I'm going to be speaking, I thought that I should be taking this TEDx talk training. But they told me, that this guidance told me that, no, take this dominatrix training instead. I'm like, really? Okay, well, so this is just one of the series of questions and decision making that took me there. But I didn't do any of the traditional things that the people might do to get to the talk. I was guided every step of the way. Like, well, shouldn't I be doing this? Like, well, so I have this, and I could be doing this. I could be doing this. I could be doing this. What's in my highest good?
Mm-hmm.
And every time I ask, like, well, just write the damn speech. Well, but no one's inviting me. And so yes. It's like, yeah. So it was really, really, but yeah, like I was literally invited like a month before.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, and then I kept getting a guidance like, well, you're going to be speaking by the end of the year. And I'm like, okay, it's October.
Yes.
Yeah. So seriously. So this was really another experience of like what it means to really follow the desires. And then you're not going to be doing anything logical, like anything my mind or your mind can think of that is logical.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, doubly that experience was really magical.
Wow. It sounds like it. Yeah. And it sounds like you almost in some ways manifested it. That's really super inspiring and interesting to know that you have that ability to tap into that guidance as well and to trust it, and then it really did happen. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The trust is another thing. Yeah. Yeah. It goes hand in hand with the desire thing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, this conversation's been really, really beautiful and amazing and even magical, I would say. Anything that you would like any question that I didn't ask or any kind of final message that you would like to share with our listeners and those watching before we wrap up?
Oh, thank you. So I would like to add the second thing I learned as a dom that was unexpected. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I got to experience this additional new way that I did not know about, or I didn't personally get to experience until then, to love people and then be loved by people. And specifically how that looks like is as a woman of like, I was very masculine woman, like, trying to be successful in the very male dominated industries. And, so to just kind of leave that behind, but also then what does it mean for me as a woman to be not just loved, like in a romantic sense by partner, but like to be worshipped, adored, revered. I did not know what that means, or I never experienced that as just a regular woman. But that training really taught me that, and then how that looks like, and then how beautiful that is, and transformative and healing it is, not just for women but also men. Especially when it comes from a man worshiping me, revering me, cherishing me, adoring me. Especially the word worship is something that I used to like worship me? Like, like I don't feel comfortable with that. Like I used to be that person. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when I really own that through my training,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm embodying that relationship with a person who wants to worship truly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get the sense that this is one of the many ways that the human love each other.
Mm-hmm.
That we used to do this. It's intrinsic, but we don't do it often.
Mm-hmm.
But because I'm embodying it right now, which I didn't get to do until I understand and own my Dom archetype inside of me. Now I understand this is one of the most beautiful way of being human, being a woman, and being loved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was another thing I really wanted to share. That, like,
yeah,
it's actually really fun to people asking me, because I did the same thing. Like, people asking me about, if you're a dominatrix, I felt that you're going to be like me and scary and cruel and all that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can be that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is this other part that I don't think people talk about or know about.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that was really insightful. Just that added piece that I'm sure there's, for most people, there's a kernel of that we want to be adored and worshiped, but maybe we don't even want to utter that on our lips because we're afraid that we'll get disappointed or the fear of rejection. So you're just realizing like, hey, it feels great to feel adored and worshiped and appreciated and valued and seen and heard, like you said earlier, and valued. So by speaking it, you're helping give everybody else the permission to want that as well.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I've really, really enjoyed the discussion. Where can people find you and your work in case they want to learn more about you?
Oh, thank you for that question. So I can be reached at, you can read more about me at my website, www.mistressmariko.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram. But people are welcome to email me directly as well at mariko@mistressmariko.com.
I love it. Well, Mariko, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come talk with me today on all the different places that we're sharing this, and for the beautiful work that you do, for stepping into your most authentic life and inspiring all of us with your story and your courage and your authenticity. It's really been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kitty. I feel so honored to be able to speak with your audience today. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard, are struggling with some aspect of your relationships, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit to work with me as your relationship coach, here's what I invite you to do next. Head over to lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. That's lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply, and book a call to speak with me. I'll get on the phone with you for about 45 minutes, and we'll get you crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, exactly what's not working well in your relationships right now. Number 2, ideally where you'd like to be and what might be getting in the way. And number 3, the exact strategy to get you there, helping to close that gap. Remember, creating healthy, open relationships does not typically happen by itself. Many often need expert guidance to make it happen. We've helped clients all over the world to feel safe, happy, and secure in open relationships, while not losing their mind or their cherished partners. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. I'm Kitty Chambliss, and let's talk soon.